Are you ready?
Let's rock it.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the John Peckman podcast. John is is a little bit under the weather this week, so it's yours truly taking over for the spot. And we have a new guest in the studio, good friend of mine, and this is a little bit of a different fleck on a twist on the education side of music. We have our illustrious band director from Portland High School, Miss Kristin Novak. Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Dave. How are you? Thanks for having me today.
Well, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to come on. You know, it's great. John's basically interviewing performers and people that he's played with and so forth. So I thought it'd be a great idea to get a little bit of the educational perspective of the music scene here. So tell us, first of all, how long you been in Portland now? You're a staple now. You're a cornerstone of the music department up there.
I guess you could say that. I've been here 25 years. This is the start of my 25th year already. So,
wow.
Yeah, I began my career here in Portland, fresh out of college, fresh out of UConn. So.
You go Huskies, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, go Huskies. Glad they're back in the Big East. That I can tell you.
Oh my God, unbelievable. So you came right directly out of college.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I remember. Checking CT REAP for an education job and where it was going to be. And I was driving back up from my house with my parents in the car, and they were concerned, is she going to find a job? It's a music teacher. Uh-huh. But I came in into the right time where there was lots of openings. And, I saw Portland as an opening, and it was East Hartford, Manchester, a couple other places, but I was really drawn to Portland.
Right.
I grew up in a small community myself. So, I had my eyes set on this job, and here I am. And
now, who did you take over for?
I
know Brian Kelly was here.
He was the high school. That ended up being my second gig. My first gig was down at the middle school.
Oh, okay.
And I cannot remember her name, but it was a young female, and I think she moved down to the Gildersleeve School to adjust her time because she had a young family.
Okay.
And then she moved on from there. But God, I remember it like yesterday, sitting in that corner room, which is now the brownstone, with the interview, and a couple of parents, a couple of teachers, a principal, and when I got the phone call back that they're willing to have me in for a guest lesson, I've been blessed ever since that they gave a chance to a young kid coming out of school. So
now I think Don Gates was the principal back then.
He was at the high school. So Margaret Downey was the principal.
Okay, yeah.
She's the one that took a chance on me. God rest her soul.
Nice.
And so I was at the middle school for 1 year, teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Okay.
And then the opportunity came up when Brian was leaving.
Okay.
To take the high school gig, and that happened on a Memorial Day weekend. And, I remember Joe Castagnola was the superintendent back then. And he said, you have the weekend to decide. And, that was a tough weekend because I really loved working with the middle school kids, and I loved that faculty and that building. I was really nervous taking over a high school gig, but, I made the decision, and here I am, still in Portland 24 years later.
Still plugging away, still on the honeymoon, my God.
Yeah, goodness.
I can remember Joe Castagnola. His famous, just call me Joe.
Just call me Joe, yeah. And then I went up, and it was Don Gates, Mike Sidoti, they were the administrators up there, and they were so supportive. And, so that's the beauty of Portland. That I'll give a huge shout out to the community of Portland because, there's so much support and love for music and respect for music. It's ingrained in the history. It doesn't matter who you bump into. If they grew up here, they'll tell you about the Eric Osterling days. They'll tell you, what it was like to be in band and how important it was. So
I can remember, well, I only was in the high school band my senior year and so forth. And when back when they didn't have the science wing, the band room was obviously the band room was right at the top of the stairs, and Mr. Austin used to stand outside between classes, and just lean against the wall as the students were filing to their classes.
Right.
And I can remember walking by. He's Kosminski. Yes, Mr. Austin. What's up? He says, "Hey, you play guitar, right?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "Come here." So he brings me in the band room. He says, "I need a string bass player for next year." I says, "Here, take this thing home." And that was it. I come walking in the house with this big 3/4 size bass. My mother says, "What are you doing with that?" He says, "Mr. Austin wants me to learn it and play it next year." So that was it. But I spent my senior year in band. That was a great experience. It really was. So.
Oh, Yeah. And and that's the biggest thing, like the experience of being in the music program, no matter where kids are, that's there's nothing like it,
No.
And so I just want every student, to have that experience, whatever they want to take from it,
Yeah.
if it's just the social side, if they're going to be music majors, if, whatever it is, that just play because it's a vehicle, a voice for them, whatever it is, it's.
Well, it's amazing. Kudos to you because, the size of the school that we have, basically, 360 students and so forth. And basically out of the school population, pretty much 3/4 of them are in the band of course program.
Yeah, the pandemic has put a little damper on that,
Yes.
I'm sure you'll ask about that down the road, but teaching music during a pandemic was certainly such a challenge.
Not fun. Well, teaching anything in that was
yes.
not fun. My God, it's like, you're doing, we obviously we took a hit here at the music school, with private lessons and, from the standpoint of Zoom lessons, I mean, Zoom is a technology and so forth, but from a private standpoint, there really wasn't a huge appetite for that. It's not the same as one-on-one. Okay, do this, do that, and you're looking at a phone or you're looking at a screen and so forth.
Right, and so we're in the rebuilding years of that, and again, I have to say to the Board of Ed, or Charles Britton, Eric Martin, Kate Lawson, Chuck Hirschon, the administrators, everybody, they're 100% behind bringing it back to what it was. It's going to be different for a while.
Oh, sure.
But making sure that we have that as the cornerstone of Portland High School, the kids back in the band and chorus program. So we're working toward that, and I'm very excited.
Yes.
To come back from that, and we have.
Well, I mean, the administrative team, Charles. I mean, they brought back the musical. So I mean,
right.
So that was huge.
So much was taken. And I call it the snap of March of 2019 there, and it just was crazy. Was it 2019, 2020? I don't even know. It's like a blank.
2020. March of 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it just. There we were, and we were supposed to go to Disney, and we were a week away. We're in Tech Week for the show for the Little Mermaid, and we were just about ready to put the kids in costume, and then it was sort of like it closed.
March 20th. I can remember. It was
like yesterday, and when we came back in, we were finally allowed to come back to school. I walked in. It was like walking into a ghost town. Everything was still there. It was traumatic for the kids. Certainly traumatic for us. And we love what we do. We love our job. We love our kids, and you pour your heart and soul into it. But yeah, so we're excited. We're starting to get back to normal. And I'm not sure normal is we use the word cautious. Are we ever going to be back to what normal is?
What normal is?
Our new normal.
Or the new normal, exactly.
Right.
So, the nice thing, too, is that, unfortunately, the seniors that were in that play, and so they got cheated out of the play that year. And you did a great thing by, inviting them back the next year. And not all of them came back, but a lot of them did.
At the end of the day, like, yes, I teach music, and I would love for all of my kids to come out and major in music or take a career path, but there's so much more to it that we provide for kids and those memories. And, philosophically, and Sam is the same way, and our new director, we just want students coming out of our program where they have a love for music, and then we continue that art form through them in some way or somehow. So if they have children down the road and they want to take an instrument and they want to be involved in the music program, that their memories are so fun, they say absolutely, or that they're now, informed enough to go out to a concert and support musicians, whether it be a local, jazz that's happening at a restaurant, like, oh, it's a Friday night and the jazz trio's there. Let's go listen to them because I enjoy listening to that genre, or, whether it's, Great Hill Mountain Band, for example, because they're always performing around here. That they go out and listen to them at the Riverside Park here that you have. That's what we need to be there for, that we continue that tradition in this art form, that they just realize that music is an essential part of being a human being.
Fostering that culture, within the town, I think is spoke volumes. I mean, since you've taken over, the program has grown exponentially. Yes, we took a hit during the COVID thing, but I can remember back in the days before you got there. The band program was they had pretty dismal numbers. You had like maybe 25 kids in the band. Now you're just south of 100 or over 100.
Back in the heyday, class sizes change in Portland, right? So, that has a lot to do with our numbers, how many kids we have in the program, how many kids are in the graduating class. There's a little correlation there. But there were times, 120 kids in the band alone, and there was 130, 140 in the chorus.
In the chorus, yeah. That's 3/4 of the school.
Yeah. And we're hoping to get back there, and I think we can.
Yeah.
But to that point, it's the fact that there's so much support, not just on the Board of Ed side, Board of Selectmen side, townspeople, like they just, it's something special about Portland that probably has kept me here for that 25 years that you can't get everywhere,
I can remember, my kids film all the Board of Selectmen's meetings, and I can remember quite a few years back now, that when you guys came into petition the Board of Selectmen and the town to purchase new band uniforms. I mean, it was like, no problem. You got it.
Right. Yeah. Those uniforms were predated me. So, it was time for them. And
those old wool things. My God.
Well, they had the wool ones, and Brian got a new set, and then they were starting to fall apart. But, again, we teach the kids, take good care of this. This is not something that is expendable, and they're not cheap. And so it just... Yeah, it's something that I think has made my job easier.
Sure,
is that support.
So anyway, so tell us about your day job when you get there in the morning. What give us a normal day?
Oh, a normal day. So
if there's a normal day.
So you come in. I have this year I'll have 3 different band classes that meet from the schedule, because the schedule's changed. But so I have an honors band class, and then I have 2 sections in symphonic band. So I'm teaching 3 sections of a band.
Okay.
Some days, some semesters I'll have a music theory class where I get to teach, it's called fundamentals.
Yep.
And that is geared for, students who want that next level to understand a little bit more how music actually works.
The nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts, right. And we're going to put the fun in fundamentals. And try to sell that, and kids come in with that. They're like, well, I want to know, this, what is this chord progression and how does it work and why is it this way? I'm like, well, we can't get there before until you do this. And so they get a little bit impatient at times. I'm like, you have to learn how to crawl, then walk before you can run,
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Because with technology, it's so easy to think that you can just whip off a chart and it's, and it's there. But no, to make it really good, even with the digitized music and the music technology and the loops, you have to have some sort of understanding of theory for it to have it make sense and make it sound great. So
I can remember back to my college, I'm sure as you can too, analyzing Bach 4-part fugues, and say, okay, what's going on here? And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I love my music theory geeks. I mean, they, you have your friends that they lived and died for that,
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and I try to tell the kids, I'm like, actually, when you get into the depths of analyzing, it is a lot of fun. And then you argue over, well, what chord is that?
What did he mean by that?
Yeah. And so that's fun. And then I just recently started offering music technology at the high school, and they have that as an exploratory in 8th grade. But we have a course for music technology, and the hope is eventually to have that as a second part to that can be independent of it, like more like music production.
Okay.
Because I think that taps a different group of students, right?
Sure.
Because we have students that jam out in their basement that aren't in band or in chorus.
Yep.
And it's a niche for them,
Sure.
And let's face it, with the iPhones and the technology in their hands, these kids are into GarageBand or whatever they have on their, particular phone. I happen to be a Mac user, so GarageBand is, right there.
Right.
But Audacity or whatever, and they play with those,
Sure.
and there's a definite niche for that. So, and I tell these kids, I'm like, listen, you don't have to play the trumpet and have a career in music. There's so much out there in the world of music production and technology that, that you don't even know exists. So let's explore that.
Right.
And you don't have to necessarily take the traditional path, like when I was in school or even when you were in school, well, if you're going to go to music school, you're either going to be a music teacher or you're going to be a performance major.
There you go.
And that's not the case anymore.
No.
So
I mean, the variety of paths within the music genre are just, they're expanding every year. Music production, you've got writing, songwriting, you've got producing, you've got, you name it. Now, going back to the pandemic, and you started doing with the technology, with the Zoom, how much of a learning curve was that, getting kids practicing together? Tell us what you went through with that.
Okay, well, so, the fact that I'm teaching a music technology course is kind of hilarious because I am not a technology guru. When there was a pecking order before Sarah Ketterer left, we nicknamed her the tech native, because anytime anything technology related had to come up, Sam and I would look at each other. I was like, oh, okay, we have to call Sarah. So I would say one of the benefits of the pandemic was forcing me to learn more technology, right? And figure out what is out there and work through that and become more comfortable. Of course, I could, do the, Excel and Google Docs and all that stuff. Right. You just need that. But the actual mastering in technology, that forced me to really learn how to use GarageBand and work through that. So that is a real plus. And when we were in the pandemic, the kids had to, we had smart music, that teach the kids how to use that and record through smart music or, a Flipgrid or whatever and listen back for themselves. And then, that desire for performance because that was taken away from us to be able to perform. That's what we do in a performance-based class is you work really hard to put on some sort of end performance production. We had the kids, record separately, and then I had to take all the tracks and put them together to make a piece, and 3 minutes of 100 kids submitting tracks and trying to get them lined up, and
that was about 4 hours of work.
Way more than 4, I have to tell you. It was at least an hour or more per track for that, and then you have to balance it out. And if you don't know how to mix the shortcuts and even mix and I don't want to do that again. Although it's a lot of fun. I said to my husband, I said, if for some reason teaching, goes away and it becomes all robotic, I think about going back for some classes in music production and the technology because it did interest me.
Sure.
But yeah, it was really hard because kids, they sense of timing isn't always the best.
Exactly.
And depending upon what they do with the click track and you have to line it up, it was hard work. There was many hours to that and many frustrations, and my computer wasn't fast enough to process through all that. So you'd get in my Mac, I'd call it the spinning wheel of death. He just spins and spins.
Weather balloons.
My husband would, it was hours. I'd, be midnight and he's like, you need to just step away,
Sometimes that's what you have to.
But, to that end, with all of that work at the end of the day, when I put that production out, it was for Memorial Day.
Yes.
Just to have something so that you can have a virtual Memorial Day.
Yeah.
The response to that, and the thankfulness that I received from everybody, just so they could hear the kids perform, just made it all worth it. Because people you don't realize what you take for granted until it's taken away.
Exactly.
And the students, even when we had to come back in the next year and we didn't have any performances per se where we could cut together, that next year, because we had the restrictions of being 6 feet apart and, you had to have the PPE because they thought that the droplets would spread. And, we were still doing virtual performances. The kids really missed that. They really realized how much performing together means,
yes,
as a musician. So,
well, I remember when they canceled the Memorial Day parade. They wanted to do a virtual parade. My town tech kids, we went around and they had the honor guard to go around to all the cemeteries. We went and filmed all of that. We filmed your performance as far as put that into the thing, and it was. But people appreciated that. They did. They really did, because that's a Memorial Day, in this town is it's a holiday, but it's also a day of reverence to honor those that served in this country, and that service to the country is really appreciated.
Well, we know Sarah is, Sarah Rutter, she's passionate about that. So she was really important to her. And to Susan and the selectmen that we do something to honor them and not let it go by, even though we were locked down. So, being able to participate in that and share that performance, that was that was truly special.
Sure.
And I know it meant a lot to everybody.
So, going back to scheduling and so forth, I know you have your years pre-planned out as far as what, I mean, I know you typically always go to Eastern states.
Yes, we're doing that again this year.
You're doing that again. So tell us how you go about planning it. I know, are you going to Disney this year? Or?
This is not a travel year. So we kind of have a formula, if you will, of what we do for our performance schedule. And I'm happy to say we're back to that normal,
Okay.
Last year we only had 2 performances in our program because we weren't sure what the year was going to look like, when
Right.
we came back and how were we going to, were we going to plan for everything and then have it ripped out underneath us? So, coming back together as a full ensemble, we only did 2 performances for our band, but this year we're going back to 3 performances, 3 concert performances. So we'll have a concert in November.
Okay.
We'll have one again in February, and then our extravaganza in May, which is our district-wide.
District-wide
My
one.
favorite concert, by the way.
Yes.
And then we have our fall is more back to normal. So we will be doing the Big E. We did do that last year too.
Yeah.
Yukon Band Day, which is an awesome experience for the kids where they get to go up to Rentschler Field and they work with members of the UCMB and David Mills and his staff and other schools from around the state come together
Right.
and perform at the halftime. So that's always exciting. Plus they get to watch a football game and,
Sure.
and that's fun for the kids too.
Yes, absolutely.
This year it's on the 10th and it's a Yukon Syracuse game. So it should be a good game. There we are back in the Big East, Yukon Syracuse and they're, I think it's an evening game, so it's going to look a little different for us.
Sure.
And our timing, but last year Yukon changed the format where they had the Yukon band members do sectionals and be mentors to the kids, and they kind of
nice.
integrated in and did, performance circles within their sections. And I think the takeaway on that for the kids was they liked that much better. And I have a number of kids that from that experience decide to do marching band when they get to college.
Nice.
And they ask about that. And I say, absolutely, you should try it, and if it doesn't work out your first year, then you don't have to do it the next year, but it's
Right.
a great way to get into the college experience and,
Sure.
and make friends and still keep music part of your life.
It's a great social aspect.
It is a great social aspect. And then we do the Portland Fair,
Yeah.
which I see is back on for this year.
So,
fingers
fingers
crossed.
crossed. We're doing it.
You never know what Mother Nature has in store. So.
You notice that?
Yeah. So here's to hoping, we need the rain, but hopefully not coming
Yes.
onto the Portland Fair weekend,
Exactly.
so that you can have the fair down at the fairgrounds.
Now, you've always done. Are you doing the Wolfpack this year? As far-
My contact with the Wolfpack, he's moved on. He's actually with Yukon right now. They have reached out, so I'm hoping to maybe do something again with the Wolfpack later in the season, whether it's the fall or the spring. But now we have the Yard Goats,
Yes.
and we could do something with them in the spring.
Sure.
As you know, I'm a huge baseball fan, so
I wonder why.
yeah.
We're going to talk about that too.
So that might be an opportunity for these kids to get out performing. We have a musical. I do not know what it is, and that's not a lie. Everybody always says when you say you don't
Sure
know
you
what it
know.
is.
Yeah,
Sure,
you know.
you just
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
You just no. I am not playing Pinocchio. We haven't decided yet.
Okay.
So hopefully when we get back to school, we'll have a decision about what show we're going to do. But that'll be in March. We'll have our show, and then obviously we have Memorial Day and graduation, and then for kids who are interested, there's always the option for the festivals. They can audition for Northern Region, and then with the prospect of hopefully doing all state. But it looks like Shoreline Music Festival and Charter Oak Music Festival, which are teacher nominated, are going to be back on the table to get together
Nice.
with the schools in the surrounding areas, which provides an extra opportunity for kids who are really serious about music and want to experience it with kids who have that same level of interest, and then a guest conductor. So
Right.
we do have funny story. I have a student whose uncle actually was my cooperating teacher, and he is a composer. He came in last year to work with the middle school band, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to tap into Tony Susi again and have him come and join the band and work with us, because he's was a fabulous educator. He's now retired, back in his day. And now he's composing too. And he's got some great compositions that are at the level of, middle school, high school. So, to have that perspective would be fabulous. So that's a great resource that we have. So I'm hoping to bring that in for our kiddos.
That those types of experiences, when you bring practicality, of the industry, because a lot of times it's kids sometimes are looking just here and they don't see the whole panoramic, big picture, as far as what's out there.
Right. And how much more exciting and cool is it that to have the actual composer in front of you talking about what the because I spend time in rehearsals saying, okay, well, this is why he's got here she has a crescendo here. This is what's happening here. The texture's changed and, you hear the voice, like here's the melody, but then it's passed to here. And we talk about all the, nitty gritty. But to have a composer there to tell him why it's happening or what the inspiration is for the piece behind it, just as a whole different, level. So those are just a few things that we're looking forward to for this year.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. Different composers, and I've asked, songwriters, how do you write? And everybody is different. Some, they have a hook line in their head, okay, right. And they start with that. Some people have a bass line. Some people have, lyrics that they're basically trying to write to. So there's really no set, recipe. Okay, this is what we, how we do it. And everybody's different, and it comes together, and it's their own vision.
Right. Well, that's what makes it so exciting, And I get all like giddy and excited about this when I'm working with my bands and even teaching technology and music technology or music theory. Like, it's exciting to see what they're thinking and why they're putting it together and trying to get inside their head and trying to, recreate what their intent was of that composer. And so I guess I get really passionate about that and sometimes a little goofy and giddy, but, and the kids see that and they respond to that, it just, I don't know. I went into music because I fell in love with it back in second grade. Right. My parents told me that I knew I wanted to be a music teacher all the way back in second grade.
Really?
Yeah, which is crazy because I didn't start band. I started band early. I started in third grade. But I always knew that it was important to me,
Right.
And I think it was because I had teachers who were passionate and then, it just sparks an interest in kids. So, if for anything, like I said earlier, just so that they recognize that they're, what you might be listening to and take for granted in the background, there's more to it. And just to heighten their awareness of why it exists and the importance.
And that's all part of the big picture, as far as that goes. Yeah. So I know, getting a little on the personal side, I know, the family. I know your husband is a military man, or has.
Well, he was. Yeah,
he's retired. Navy.
No, he was Army.
He was Army.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. He went to West Point. And then he served his 5 years. He did 2 years down in Louisiana, Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Okay.
I do not intend to move to the South anytime soon. That's intense heat and humidity. This summer is a little taste of what it's like down there all the time.
Yes.
And then he had the opportunity to finish his obligation in Connecticut through the National Guard, commanding a company up here. So he did that, and he was a company commander for 5 years. So he was in the military for 8, total of 8.
Yeah.
And then
Is that where you guys met up here?
I actually met him in high school.
You really?
I did.
Nice. A high school sweetheart.
Well, not really, but we were in the same friend circle. So
okay.
Yeah. But at the time, my boyfriend at the time and my husband, they were best friends. So we spent a lot of time together.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've known him for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. And
now, is he totally retired now?
Yeah, he didn't retire. He resigned from that. He resigned his commission.
Okay. Because
he was part-time. A lot because I think his grandma, the matriarch of the family, said we're all set. It was right during the time of post 9/11 and shock and awe, and she had lost Grandma Holly had lost her first husband at war, and then her second husband and her son-in-law and her son, and she's like she's like I'm all set with my grandson. So you've served your time, and he felt that his time was done, and at that point when he was almost deployed. And I know he's sad to say that he didn't wasn't fully deployed, but he did what his country needed of him. The National Guard was activated, and he went down to Fort Eustis, and he was almost deployed 3 times. Like, we're going, we're not, we're going. Yeah. And then they decided that, the direction I think it was that he was going in was through Turkey, and Turkey said nope. So his orders were canceled, and when he came back, our priorities changed. It was at that time we decided that, you know what, it's time to start a family. We had been married 7 years at that point.
Okay, there you go.
And we decided to start a family. So, priorities changed, and he resigned his commission, and the rest of that is history.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I know, my son is, he served 8 years active, and now he's, both him and his wife are out.
Thank you for his service too. So
Dittos. But he did I don't know, 4 years in Germany. He did a year in the sandbox in Iraq, as he calls it, and then he finished his active part. He was down at Fort Huachuca down in Arizona, and then he went out into the reserves, and then his reserve unit basically got disbanded here in Connecticut, and he didn't want to go every other weekend or one weekend a month and way upstate New York. So anyway, Abby Pickle's dad, Colonel Pickle, got him to come over to the dark side, as he says, into the National Guard. So he's in the National Guard.
Oh, he is. He's still in the Guard.
Yeah,
nice.
he's still in the Guard. So he's still a bandsman. So he's,
See, and that's another opportunity for kids, like they don't realize, you got music is everywhere, right?
Yeah,
so
is.
And he and your son, went to Berkeley, and was in the bandsman and in the military, and he's a teacher now. So it is everywhere. But so here he is, and
so you got your family. You got 2 kids. You got a daughter and a son. I know Jack is he's the oldest.
He is the oldest. Jack is the oldest. He's headed off to college next Wednesday.
Where's that?
He's going to be attending Mitchell College down in London. He's going to be playing baseball down there and pursuing a degree in health science. He'll probably somehow be in the career. His end game, whenever that may be, is
going pro.
Yeah, his end game, whatever that may be, is physical therapy or athletic training. I don't see him too far away from sports at some point, And his personality is he's a people person, and he loves helping people. So I think that his end game somewhere will be somewhere sport related and helping. So.
Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right. We've told him he's not suited for a desk job. He is way too social to be, somewhere where he needs to be behind a computer screen. So
now he's a pitcher, correct?
He's a pitcher and a fielder. So right now we're thinking, he's going to go and they'll put him where they need him, kind of a 2-way. And his coach, once he gets there, will figure out what the best option will be for him and his team. So we're hoping, that he'll have a good time and a career. And, his time will come at some point,
Sure.
When he's down there. There's a lot of great players. So he's very excited for that. And we told him, go live your dream and, have fun because you got finite time,
exactly.
to be an athlete, because your body will quit before your love and heart for it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
we're finding that out.
Right. So, we've encouraged him to do that. And my daughter, Caitlin, is a sophomore.
And now they graduated at Bacon, correct?
Yes, Bacon.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So she's a sophomore at Bacon, a rising sophomore at Bacon Academy.
Okay.
She too is an athlete. Both of them. Sadly, we tried to get them to be musicians. Caitlin held on a little longer than Jack did. But gosh, she was good at the saxophone. I told her, I'm like, oh. Jack, not so much. He wanted to play the saxophone, and I'm like, no, you're not playing the saxophone because we'll butt heads. And I put him on the trumpet, but he really wanted to play the sax. And by the time he switched over, that ship had sailed. So
yes.
With Caitlin, when she said she wanted to play the sax, I'm like, okay, we'll just dive in. And she was good. And
yeah.
I just, but she loves basketball, and that was her passion. So as long as she has a passion and she's doing something,
sure.
That was it. I tried to have her hang on, but you never know. She may go back.
Yeah, why not?
And so we're excited to see that. And basketball is her primary, but she plays soccer and track. She picked up track last year as well. So,
nice.
She's a pretty athletic kid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, your advice to high school seniors or students, embarking on careers. What's your advice on, as far as I know, every industry I know, is experiencing, what we call the gray tsunami, the ball tsunami, or whatever we want to call it. What would be your advice to high school seniors on, picking a career path, focusing in music or whatever?
Well, that's a loaded question, actually. I do have moments where I do get to talk to my kids before they graduate, my seniors. And one of the things I said is, what's kept me in Portland, what keeps me doing what I'm doing, I was blessed enough to find a career path in the two things that I love the most. I mentioned earlier that I knew I loved music ever since I was in second grade. And I also had a passion for kids. I liked being around kids and helping people. So I've been blessed to put the two together. So the two things that I enjoy most, that I get the most enjoyment from, and most passionate about, I was able to find a career for. So, I tell students, I'm like, first of all, nothing in life is permanent except for probably death, right?
Yeah.
So
no paying taxes and death.
That's right. But you don't have to, feel like you need to have it figured out when you leave school, right off the bat. More so now than when I went through school, right? We were expected, I was telling my husband this, we were expected to know what we were going to do when we entered our freshman year of college. And that's sort of the path you took. So I always tell, students, I'm like, when you go to school or you move in making decisions, experience as much as you can, and I even telling my own children that, with Caitlin, she's interested in art. I'm like, take an art class, take a culinary class, take an automotive shop. You don't know what is going to be important to you or what's going to spark your interest. And then if you find something that you're interested in, keep looking into it, keep exploring it, and cultivate that. If you can find a career or a job in something that you're passionate about, you're going to be happy in life. That's it, and that's exactly it. I mean, I come to work every day, and I love what I do. So I'm blessed for that. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay to change course. Sure. There's no shame in changing course. Nope. And going in and saying, well, for example, I'm going to do health science, but all of a sudden you've taken a couple of courses and, perhaps it's in business. And now, I'm really interested in business. Well, it's okay to change that career path. And so I guess my biggest thing is, always continue to learn and don't be afraid to explore your inner self, like what truly makes you happy, and look for that, because there's probably something out there that you're passionate about that you can find a career path or job in. And if not, if it's something that it's a hobby, then keep that part of your life, because that's equally important.
Sure. You gotta have, outside interests.
Yeah. It's a big world out there, and it's scary for kids to leave the nest. And I also say, and I think times are changing a lot. Again, I go back to when I was going to school. The expectation is you were going to go right into college, right? But as we're learning that now, more so than ever, career pathways out of high school are equally important, you could be equally as successful, or going into the military and through the military learning, a trade or a craft or a skill. It's a fabulous way to pick something up, or just going into the workforce, right? Sure. Because you take that year and you kind of want to figure out what you're doing.
Sure.
There's no wrong way.
No.
And it doesn't have to be the same way as for everybody.
Exactly. And I keep telling my students too, is, not everybody's made to go to college. And there are plenty of careers, and that's one of the other podcasts that I do are, careers you didn't know about in the water and wastewater industry. A lot of times, these are opportunities that are out there that people didn't realize they were out there. And, you don't have to have a college education. You can get a certification, and I know operators that are coming out of college that are making $100,000 a year.
Right.
Doing it's a skill, and they've exploited that, and there's need, and it's a skill that can't be outsourced. It's very stable. It's secure, and so it's and you don't have to run up $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in college loans.
Well, and my husband is in construction management and the company he works for, but he'll always say the trades right now, there's a desperate need. They're hurting for that. They definitely are. And to find somebody who's good at their craft, people will pay for it. So, I tell kids, when we go around the room with the seniors and I say, what are you doing after high school? What is your pathway after high school? And you hear kids say, I'm going to this college, I'm going to this college. And then you get to somebody who might not be going to college. And there's sometimes a little bit of, uneasiness with that. Like, am I not measuring up? And it's like, well, fabulous. Good for you. Not everybody has to take that. And it doesn't mean that if you don't go to college now that you can't go back. I mean, Absolutely. There's adult learners all the time.
Absolutely.
So there's definitely no one path. And I try to, express that to the kids that, you're going to find success no matter what you do. And if you're looking for it and you put your work in and stay focused.
Sure. Exactly. Getting back to the band thing, as far as do you normally do any field trips without performing, like say taking them to a concert or something like that? Or?
We have gotten away from that. Because it always feels like there's a need for that performance aspect. But it's funny you should ask that, because Sam and I, for people who don't know, I refer to Sam. Sam Tucker's my choral compatriot up there. And he and I have spent a lot of time talking about, what are other things that we can do? And we actually had that conversation with Kate. And she said the same thing. She's like, we need to give these kids these opportunities. And I'm finding more and more that students have never been to a live performance or the performances that they have been to are, whether if it's their genre that they listen to, the R&B, hip hop, or, maybe country or whatever. And sometimes we don't necessarily have true live performances in that, sometimes there's not everything, some tracks are pre-recorded, some things, right? So, for them to go, if I say, raise your hands if you've ever seen, an orchestra live, fewer and fewer kids have experienced that. So I think as we come out of the pandemic at Portland and the school systems, and our musicians, our performing professional musicians are coming out of the pandemic, I think it's important now more so than ever that we support that and that we continue that so that they still have jobs too, right?
Sure, absolutely.
We talked about taking some kids down to the Goodspeed and seeing a musical live, because Goodspeed has a great outreach programs, for students. So I think that's something that we're going to explore for these kids, particularly on the off years. Like, what can we provide for them on an off, when I say off year, when we're not traveling,
or even possibly taking them to a Broadway show.
Yeah,
that's a, the Big Apple is my God. There's so many shows down there, and it's the type of thing.
And they're struggling. They are. Our artists or artist friends are struggling in this career, right? To get those houses filled in again, and it's just so important. I go every Friday night. My husband and I have a tradition. We go Friday night to a restaurant in Colchester. It's the Inishmore Pub. And every Friday night, there's a jazz trio there. And we started that actually during the pandemic when we couldn't go inside. It was outside patio seating, and the little jazz trio would come. And, that's 2.5 years now in the making when they had reopened. But they know. And it's just... it's an opportunity for them to come out, and they pack the house, so we take my kids every now and again. Jack and Caitlin will come, and it just gives them an opportunity to hear the live musicians. And, I think that's important, if we can just get out and support
live music. They took, getting back to the Broadway things, not only the actors and musicians and so forth, but there's so many tentacles. The
sound, the lighting,
your sound, your scenery,
makeup,
your makeup, your
costuming.
All of those are, bona fide careers.
And so one of the things in my music tech class when we were in that coming out of the pandemic, and we had to be 12 feet apart, and we couldn't be in the music lab because I had to do it on the Chromebook, and we were doing things through Soundtrap, and one of the things I talked to the kids about is career exploration, and we talked about Foley artistry, and then what do you have for any kind of music or production side of things? and it was like a full page, a 2-column page of things that you can do that's in the music art industry,
Sure.
that are careers that they didn't even think about, like being a boom operator, for example,
Absolutely.
right? What is that to do? What does an audio technician do? And then the multiple layers of that. It's not just one person. You have this person that's in charge of this, and it just is. Yeah, it's so important to get back to see that live stuff, because we're keeping we're keeping people employed.
Oh yeah. And those types of skills are, even from the side, live stage. I mean, there are people they call gaffers that just tape down the wires.
Right.
Right. That's their job.
That's their job.
Okay.
And they're moving the scenery, and and that's a beauty. Like to that end, we do a musical every year. That's something that we had started that our former superintendent, Philip O'Reilly, was really passionate about. We had done, when I first started here, and God, it seems so long ago, it was, the musical was every other year. We would travel on odd years and musical on even years, for example. Yeah. And with that, and when Sam came in, he really wanted to explore having it every year. And, Philip brought that to the board. And again, that's a cost, right?
Sure,
there's an expense with that.
Absolutely.
And they supported that. And it's huge. We get kids involved from the school that are not involved in the music department. They enjoy art. They enjoy woodworking. They, costuming or makeup or, again, it provides an opportunity for kids to experience things outside of the classroom setting that they might have a passion for. So, I think we need to get the kids out to see that, so that twofold: one, that they can experience it and know what it's all about, and two, support our artist friends. And I guess I would say even threefold. And three, what I find when I ask kids like what they listen to, the music that they listen to, a lot of it is generated through loops or whatever, right? So more electronic, digitized, if you will, and so they're laying down track after track, and it's it's not the live musicians, I get so excited when I'm sharing, like, we gotta listen to Chicago, like it's a live band, like listen to the brass, and they're like, like that was big when I was little, or Huey Lewis and the News, I mean, that's how I ended up really loving the saxophone and picking it.
Sure.
It was actually Billy Joel was my inspiration for the saxophone. I just love the sound of it. So, I think kids just need that opportunity to experience that.
Well, it's funny. I discovered a new music venue. Okay, that in fact my son exposed me. We got tickets to Tedeschi Trucks. Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks down at the Westville Music Bowl, which is basically it's the old Pilot Pen arena. It's right across the street from the Yale Bowl. But it's an outdoor arena, and there is not a bad seat in the house. The sound is phenomenal. So we took it, and I just went down last Saturday night. Went down to see Warren Haynes and the Government Mule. But it's a great venue. It's outside. It's terrific, and I go from there. But speaking of genres of music, I did a career podcast this morning, and one of our it was actually our water clerk from the town here, Devin Arcee, who was a Portland alumni.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're going to get to this, at the end here. But I says, well, what kind of interest, what kind of genre of music are you into? He says, K-pop.
K-pop.
K-pop. I did not know that was the first time I ever heard K-pop. And so I said, oh, okay.
Well, teaching high school kids and having the middle school kids around, they keep me relevant, so sometimes they'll say things and I'm too embarrassed to ask what it means or what it's about. So I go home and ask my kids, and then they, my Jack and Caitlin laugh at me. They're like, oh, Mom. I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to stay up with the times, I gotta stay somewhat hip here, I'm starting to age out. So
I hear you.
But, I think, the kids bring such a different perspective, for what they listen to.
Sure.
And you can't disrespect what it is that they enjoy, right? Because they come from a different perspective. So, it might not be my taste in music, but it is, and so you look at the genres of music, and then the subgenres within those genres.
Oh, sure.
You're like,
The spinoffs.
yeah,
Okay.
it's exhausting. I can't
Yes.
keep up with them all. So, but it is interesting to listen. Country runs very wide here. Country music. Kids in Portland seem to like country music. That's a very popular genre.
Yeah.
When I do my inventory. EDM is another one that's pretty popular.
Okay.
Some of the kids like that electronic dance music. And of course hip hop,
Yes.
R&B,
Yeah.
in the rap and whatever that seems to be something that they're into.
So-
They're not going to be telling me they're listening to classical music. Every now and again I find kiddos that are really into jazz, but
It is what it is.
they spend more time on. Though classic rock is a big thing. 80s rock. The kids which is my speed, right? Because I
Sure.
grew up in the 80s. So that makes me happy when they know my music.
Well, in fact, we had John did an interview with a gentleman that has been around the music circuit. His own group is called the 70s Project. Anyway, Chip Finney plays with him.
Oh, Chip, he's a friend of mine from UConn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he was a producer. Well, years back, he told a story that he's from Colchester, Norwich way. Well, anyway, if you're familiar with Shaboo out in Willimantic, the Shaboo All Stars.
No.
Well, David Lefty Foster is basically the originator of the Shaboo, and they used to have. They had the Rolling Stones. They had, a lot of heavy people out there. Anyway, it has since burned down. But David Lefty has started his own business doing backline and basically supplying instruments for a lot of the Mohegan and the Foxwood events. And anyway, so he calls up John. He says, "Hey, I need to drive me a truck to New York." He says, "Well, I don't want to drive a truck." He says, "Yeah, it's." I got to supply. Journey's going out on tour, and I'm supplying the equipment for it. So you got to drive the thing down here. Anyway, long story short, he finally convinced him to do it, and he went down and got to hang out with these guys. And who was playing in Journey, but John Bonham's son.
Oh.
Okay. And anyway, as the story goes, they liked him. And he ended up, being stage manager, and he was actually in the room when Led Zeppelin came back and did that reunion show.
Nice.
With John, and just to hear that story, it was just like, oh my God, and with when they're coming back together after so many years, of course, after John passed away. I mean, he's Jason. Who better to get to fill the drum spot but the kids,
right,
and so forth. But it was unbelievable. But yeah, it's some of these stories that you hear, and the connections and so forth. So anyway, so getting back to music,
yeah.
Okay. What's the first concert you ever saw?
New Kids on the Block.
All right.
With Tiffany at Lake Compounds.
All right.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Hanging Tough. Oh, that was my jam.
The boy band.
The boy band. Oh, embarrassing story, but why not? I'll just share it. So musicians have a long time tradition of naming their instruments, right?
Sure.
They perform better if they're named, right?
Sure.
So I had the biggest crush on Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block with his beautiful baby blue eyes. So my saxophone in school was nicknamed Joey. So that's New Kids on the Block with Tiffany. Yeah.
So
my husband's a huge Tiffany Debbie Gibson fan.
There you go.
Even to this day. Yeah, he's stuck in the 80s, more so than me. But yeah, I think he had a secret crush on those girls. So,
Aha. The truth comes out.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, New Kids on the Block and Tiffany.
So if you had a Desert Island album, okay, you got stuck on a desert island.
I asked my kids this question, and no one's ever asked me.
What would you, or a couple?
Oh. I will tell you, okay, the album specifically, I don't know if I can give you the album specifically, but it would definitely be Billy Joel.
Okay.
Probably his greatest hits because there's some great stuff on that one.
Yep.
Anything from Elton John.
Okay.
And I'd probably take Chicago just because, what a What a horn section, man.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do that anymore.
No, you got, you got Chicago, you got Tower of Power. I
Yeah.
mean, all those big.
Yeah. So that's a really tough call. But I'm pretty eclectic in what I listen to. So, it could be some classic rock, Def Leppard. If I have to bring Def Leppard, I take Def Leppard with me.
Okay.
I always love Def Leppard. I think that just brings me back to my childhood when middle school age. So, and that when that comes on, I just jam out to it. So yeah, wow, that's tough.
All right. Desert island food.
Desert island food. I'd say ice cream, but it wouldn't last long. So let's.
Something you could eat every day.
Something that I could eat every day. Oh, yeah, it'd be ice cream.
Ice cream. Okay.
Ice cream is my weakness. Yeah.
Well, any particular flavor?
Mint chocolate chip or black raspberry.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I find people like you either love mint or hate mint. I've never found anybody neutral to mint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like either love it or hate it sort of thing.
It's either you're in or out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So probably ice cream. It's hard for me to turn that down.
Okay.
Because it's good.
Now, on getting back to the music, are you a consistent practicer?
No.
No.
Unfortunately, life gets in the way. So I had kids when I was teaching private lessons. I would play, pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And then my kids, I leave. If you ask Sam Tucker, and my calendar pops up, and he'd be like, "What is going on that calendar?" Because I'd have my school day, which ends at 2:45, 3:00, and then I have my extracurriculars. But after my extracurriculars at Portland, I would come home and be mom, and that would go until like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, transporting them to their whatever activity it was there. So finding time to practice was really challenging, and then you kind of get out of the habit of it. So I'm sort of hoping now that I'm one bird out of the nest, that we can bring that back in and make that happen. Because you just find the time.
Now I know your main instrument is saxophone. What's your tenor, alto?
Alto. I was primarily alto all through high school, and then I picked up soprano in college. Actually, when I went to college, I auditioned. You go and you audition for your ensemble, and I auditioned. And I was a young whippersnapper, and I thought,
there you go.
Whatever.
You're still a young whippersnapper.
Okay, wind ensemble. What do I know how it was going to work? Well, I saw the assignment, and I was lucky enough as a freshman to make the Yukon Wind Ensemble, but on the Barry sax. So so I picked up the Barry sax, and that was an adjustment. That's a great instrument. And then I ended up playing Barry in the jazz bands, the lab jazz band up there, and then the jazz band itself, the main jazz band. And I picked up soprano. I played the soprano in the sax quartet. So I didn't play as much tenor. Tenor kind of faded in and out a little bit. I did that in marching band in high school and a little bit here and there. But so I play all of them, obviously.
So you have all the saxes, correct?
I do not own a Barry sax.
Oh, okay.
No, sadly. So, but it was a lot of fun. Playing all those. So, but alto was sort of what got me into it, and which is weird though, because when I listen to the saxophone, like the sound that I like the best is the tenor.
Okay.
Like I just find it smooth and sexy and whatever, but I played the alto, so kind of weird.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know if you know, in fact, we have, in 2 weeks, we have Bill Holloman. Do you know Bill Holloman?
I do not. No.
Bill is a horn player that has been around the music scene in Connecticut. He's played with everybody. Been out on tour, but he's so unique. He plays sax, he plays trumpet, he plays trombone, flugelhorn. He plays them all, and he depending on what the gig is, and so he's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but he's plays with the Shubu All Stars, and he's been on tour with so many people. But
Yeah, and what's weird is, so I am primarily, when I went to UConn, when you say this, people kind of like, how it's like an oxymoron. It was really a classical saxophone player. So that's sort of where I lived and spent my time. And so, I dabbled in jazz band a little bit here and there and whatever. But it's interesting because you pretty much know the saxophone for jazz and pop and whatever. But so when I say I play saxophone, I really enjoy classical music. It's kind of it was a weird fit, you know. But you know, hey, it existed and it was great, and there's some great stuff out there for classical sax, but you just don't find them that often.
Yeah, in fact, our records, our secretary in the Public Works, she's a huge Barry Manilow fan, and she went to the Barry Manilow concert. I think it was in Rhode Island. I think it was, but who opened for him? But was Dave Koz.
Oh, okay.
And so forth. And she says he was phenomenal.
I bet. You know, Barry Manilow. That brings me. 2009, I took the band to Washington D.C. for the July 4th Independence Day parade. We were invited to march in that parade back in 2009. And so as we were walking around Washington, D.C. as a group, as a band, for the 4th of July, the performer there happened to be Barry Manilow, and he was doing a sound check, and the kids stopped and watched a sound check. And that was a great, authentic experience because they didn't realize what goes on. And, and they were stunned by how demanding performers can be. And I'm like, listen, it has to be right for them, you know?
Exactly.
So they have their particular nuances that they want and how they want to hear it and what they need to hear in their headsets and
what they need in a monitor mix and what they don't want in a monitor mix. Right. Bring this level up, bring that level down.
And so it was fascinating for the kids to see that they don't just walk out on stage.
Wow. Unbelievable. Hey, Kristen, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming down. This has been a phenomenal experience. I'm so glad that you made time to come out, and you have give us a new perspective on the educational side of music. So anyway.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And, I didn't say earlier, but I just want to say thanks for all that you do for the kids here in Portland and for our music program in Portland. This is a plug for Dave Kosminski in the music shop here. The 2:30, Dave, my tuba's broken. I have a concert in 3 hours. Can you fix it?
No worries. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
And, giving the kids here an opportunity in the community to perform. So,
great.
I hope you continue that too.
Thank you so much. Be happy to. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our episode here with the John Peckman Podcast. We're live here in the Connecticut Valley School of Music podcast studio. Miss Kristin Novak was in the house, our illustrious band teacher for many, many years at Portland High School. So thank you so much for coming, Kristen, and we'll see you back at the 29th. We're back in school.
That's right. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you. If you'd like to start your own podcast, give us a call at Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance. Our professionally designed podcast space is here for all your recording needs. Rent out our studio to do interviews with up to 4 people, to record audiobooks, social media content, and all other recorded material. Our rentals include a private studio along with our professional-grade podcasting equipment, and we can customize your output to whatever your needs are. We also have green screen capabilities, which will expand to video capability if you so wish. So check us out here at convalley.net/podcast.